Hello students, we are going to start chapter 4 from your footprints without feet. Yes students, we have done some chapters and then we had a break. Once again we are getting back to footprints without feet. Please open your textbook and take page number 20, chapter 4, a question of trust. A question of trust. Now, before you could go, let's see written by whom. The author is Victor Canning. And what is it? It is said that you must set a thief to catch a thief. But it is also said that there is honor among thieves. Which saying does this story illustrate? So, what is it that we are going to see? There is a honor even among the thieves. And what is it? And what is this story is going to tell us? So, please pay attention and see now. The questions are, what does Horace Danby like to collect? Why does he steal every year? So, Horace Danby is going to be the main character over here. And why does he steal every year? The second question that shows that he was a robber, he was a thief. Because it shows why does he steal every year. So what was he stealing? And why was he stealing? Let's see in the chapter. Everyone thought that Horace Danby was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried. And he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He made locks and was successful enough at his business to have 2 helpers. Yes, Horace Danby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. So, the first paragraph is talking about who Horace Danby was. The first line, the first sentence itself tells that he was a good, honest citizen. And how old was he? He is described as a 50-year-old man who was not married, he was unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper. Housekeeper worried about his health. In fact, he usually very well and happy. He used to be usually well and happy except that of the attacks of hay fever. So he had the problem, he had the attack of the hay fever. And what is that hay fever? Hay fever is a disorder affecting the nose and throat caused by allergy to pollen or dust. Some people get the allergy of the flowers, some people get of the dust. And so Horace Danby also had this sickness, this allergy, and that is called hay fever. He used to get it in summer. He made locks and was successful enough at his business to have 2 helpers. So what was his business? He made locks and he was successful in his business. He also had 2 helpers to help him. Yes, Horace Danby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. He was good. He was also a respectable person, but he was not completely honest. Though the first sentence, the first line says that he was a good, honest citizen, but he was not completely honest. Why it is said like that? Let's see. 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. See, 15 years ago, where was Horace? He had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. So he was in the prison and he was in the library. Okay? He has served over there in the prison library 15 years ago. He loved rare, expensive books. He liked reading. He liked to read the rare and the expensive books. He must have seen plenty of books in the prison library. So he robbed a safe every year. So what he did? He robbed a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do, stole enough to last for 12 months, and secretly bought the books he loved through an agent. So what was his hobby? His hobby was to read the books, and he robbed the safe every year. And he planned out his robbery very well, that he stole enough to last for 12 months. And then secretly he also bought some books which he loved through an agent. So agent was the one who was helping him to get the books. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. So what is that? He is already planning another robbery. And what is this? As he is walking in the bright July sunshine, he is thinking, or he is feeling that he is sure that this year's robbery also is going to be as successful as all the years. And so for 2 weeks he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange. So where is that? He is studying about the house, how he will break into, and where he will be going. So it was the house at Shotover Grange. He was going to rob that. Looking at its rooms, its electric wiring, its path and its garden. This afternoon, the 2 servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London had gone to the movies. Horace saw them go, and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. So students, what is that? He had been carefully studying of the house. How will he be robbing? How will he go? And so house where? As Shotover Grange, looking at its rooms, electric wiring, the paths, the garden, from where he will get into, where he will get out, his entry, his exit, everything he was studying over. This afternoon, that particular afternoon, the 2 servants of this house had remained. This afternoon, the 2 servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London. So family was in London, family was not staying over there. And who was there? The 2 servants, they were looking after the house. Where they had gone? They had gone for a movie. Horace saw them go. Horace saw that they were going out, and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. So what? He used to have the allergy. So he felt the little tickle in his nose of tickle of what? Hay fever. And hay fever is what? The allergy. He came out from behind the garden wall. So from where is he coming out? Behind the garden wall. His tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. So what? His tools were already well packed, carefully packed in his bag, which was on his back. And he comes through the gate behind the garden wall. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grange safe. If he sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make another year. So what is that? He is thinking of robbing the jewelry, what was there, and he knows if he sells it, he will get 5,000, at least enough to make him happy another year. So he has already planned at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for the next year. Okay? Now, there were 3 very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. Now, he would get the money he wanted to buy them. See, for what cause he was robbing? He was robbing for the cause. The reason was to buy the books. And which were the books? The books were the 3 interesting upcoming books for the sale in the autumn. And he was sure that he would be able to buy into 5,000 these 3 books. Students, you know that when the new books, when they are coming, the price is more. And so he knew what he wanted. And for that, he was doing this robbery. He has seen the housekeeper. Hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. So students, what was that? He was a professional robber. He knew how to rob. And what was his business? After all, he made the locks. So he knew how and what to do, which key and what. And so therefore what? He has seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on the hook outside. So he knew where the key would be. He put on a pair of gloves. He wears the gloves, took the key and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. He was very sure that he did not want to leave any fingerprint, any mark behind. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise and moved its tail in a friendly way. So who was that? A small dog lying there in the kitchen. It made a little noise and moved the tail in a friendly way, as if he knew this Horace Denby. All right, Sherry, Horace said as he passed. What is he saying? All right, Sherry, Horace said as he passed. All you had to do to keep the dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. He knew the professional thief. He knew all the tricks, what to do and how to go, when to go, which tricks to be used. So what trick he is using? He is telling, all right, Sherry. Whether the name of the dog is Sherry or no, he is calling by its name. Must have learned the name of the dog. And what he says, then you can make them quiet and show them little love. The safe was in the drawing room, behind a rather poor painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books. But they took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. So what he thinks, paintings would take so much of place, and so therefore, in a small room, in his house, in a small house where he has got, the books were better, not to go for any paintings or anything. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table, and Horace felt his nose tickle. When does his nose used to get tickled? His nose used to get tickled when there were some flowers and so on. And so it was an allergy, that was a hay fever. He gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. He carefully arranged his tools. He had 4 hours before the servants returned. So he had 4 hours to go on till the servants returned. He could be free, he could do whatever he wanted to do. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. So the safe where he was going to be was not going to be hard for him to open, because all of his life he has been dealing with the locks and the safes. The burglar alarm was poorly built. He went into the hall to cut its wire. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flower came to him again. So what? He comes back and he sneezes. Why? Because the flower, the smell, the fragrance of the flower was very strong, and he had the allergy. He could not bear up the smell, he could not bear up the fragrance, so he started sneezing. How foolish people are when they own valuable things, Horace thought. Horace thought to himself, how foolish the people are when they have valuable things. A magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and a picture of this room. The writer had even mentioned that the painting hid a safe. See, as it is, Horace is reading the books, magazines and all. He also knows what is that the magazine article had described the house, giving the full plan of the house, where the pictures would be, how the room would be. And even the writer had even mentioned what? That the painting hid a safe. So it was easy for him. But Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. But he buried his face in his handkerchief. So what he did? He buried his face in his handkerchief because the flowers were disturbing him. Students, we will stop over here and we will see the next part in the second lecture. We will stop over here. We saw about Horace Denby, who was a good honest citizen but was not really very honest? We'll see about him in the next lecture. Have a good day.